are. No flagrant N bombs. Okay, I
Oh yeah,
know
don't
you
know.
can't
No, yeah.
stop.
Don't do that.
I mean, this you get one drink in this guy, and then he's like N word this, N word that,
Oh
Oh
man.
yeah.
F word this. I mean, it's like, I mean, it's nonstop with this guy.
I just got monetized on YouTube. You're gonna get me kicked off? Come on.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm good at getting you demonetized. That's my goal actually for today.
Oh, great. I think we're on. Yeah, we're on live. All right. Welcome to Red Cell Review Radio. This is not a radio. This is fucking YouTube. I'm so confused at what I'm doing right now. Welcome to Red Cell Review on YouTube. Let me do the intro and we'll be right back. Hit play, idiot.
It's time for Red Salad Review with your hosts, Wayne Moon, Greg Donald, and Lou Banks.
All right. Start that over. Welcome to Red Cell Review. Hello, everybody. Hello to AC and DJ from the Metal Podcast. What's up, guys?
Hey, how's it
Hello.
going?
Thank you for joining me here.
Well,
Happy
thank
to
you
be
for the
here.
invite. Yeah, very happy.
Yeah. Tell the people who you people actually are. You have a podcast of your own, correct?
DJ, you go first.
Yeah, we do. We are the co-hosts of the Metal Podcast, and we exist because we believe there is, an obvious problem with the current state of music. Not just, we'd like to talk more about metal, but we often talk about the crimes and nonsense that rappers commit. Seems to be a common topic, but it wasn't something we looked out for. But we realized there was, you can't do rap without committing crimes, and a rap sheet is one of the reasons why they call it rap. So, I am DJ. I don't know if I stated my name, and I guess now I'm kind of a DJ.
Wow.
AC, popcorn, you.
Yeah, so the DJ and I, we've known each other since we were children, and then we just reconnected as adults and said, like, why don't we do something? And we couldn't quite settle on what to do, and then we had the idea to do a podcast, and then the first few episodes that we did was just kind of like, by the books metal, but it was probably about episode 10 when we got into our stride, which was we did an episode on Rihanna. And like what we found about her was very strange, like how she was discovered and how she got popular. And then we kind of fell down this rabbit hole where the modern pop artist seems to get a record deal before they have songs.
Mm.
And I can't remember who it was. It might have been Bad Bunny, but within 5 months of like recording music, they had a platinum record. It was something strange. So we've done a lot of kind of deconstructions of mainstream music, and the thing that I'm most proud of is the deep dive that we've done on Laurel Canyon and how essentially the CIA created what is modern pop and how modern pop stars are created. And when you look at the trends of music, very few things have any staying power outside of metal. Now, metal is pretty far removed from the Billboard Top 100. Every now and then, you get like your Cannibal Corpse, your Megadeth, which will crack the top 200.
Right.
But it's been a long time since Countdown to Extinction. So very, very few actual like straightforward metal bands are cracking the charts. But there is really, there's no more grunge, there's no doo-wop, there's no disco. As far as all the trends have gone, metal is the only thing that people are still starting new bands of. And there is the more mainstream metal, but there's not a new band that sounds like Judas Priest. There's not a new band that sounds like Creator. But I mean, on the charts, of course. But kids are still starting bands that sound like that. Like you can go to the local, like whatever your metal bar or something like that. That there's max occupancy 60 people, and there's still people that like Municipal Waste is a relatively new band. Whitechapel, Witch Haven. Like there's still bands that sound like they started in 1986.
Right.
And you don't have that with grunge. You don't have that even with like the post grunge. You have and even a lot of those grunge bands, there's only a few handful that are still out there and touring. I guess a lot of them, they're dead because they were losers. But for the most part, like, is Mudhoney still around?
No.
No.
It's like Pearl Jam is still around.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, I agree.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about it. Yeah, and there's not the new. I guess the only thing that had kind of a resurgence is it's not exactly new wave, but synth wave is really popular.
Right.
But I think there is a big emphasis on 80s nostalgia, and I think that's one of the reasons why metal has been popular, because 80s pop culture resonates with a lot of people, not just people that grew up in the 80s, but there's still a mass appeal to it. Like people still like the muscle men of the 80s, like bodybuilding is kind of getting a weird resurgence. People like the aesthetics, but there's Stranger Things, which is like all 80s, but where's the show that's like 70s where everyone has a leisure suits, bad mustache, and shag carpeting?
We had that
Nowhere.
70s show.
Sure, there was that 70s show. But how old is that show? Was that from like 97, 98?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only reason I know that is because I remember the episode that The Rock and Shamrock were on. And that was like 99. And that was, I don't know, I don't think it was the first season. So that show is at least 25 years old.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's funny you mentioned Stranger Things, because I was going to say that's where like a lot of the synth wave started getting popular was with that show, because the intro of that show's got this like a synth wave type thing. And
oh yeah,
like you said, it's all 80s and stuff. So I think a lot of that type of stuff came from that Stranger Things. By the way, this is Lou Mavs, and your connection is terrible as always.
Good evening, gentlemen. Is it really again? I seem to be clear and hearing everyone fine.
He's like Max Headroom over here.
Yeah.
Oh dear God. Do you want me to reboot and I'll come back on?
Well, he sounds good. You just don't look good.
That's just my normal face.
Yeah, he never looks good.
Well,
doesn't even have to move his lips.
Then it sounds like your connection's perfect. I don't see what the problem is.
Wayne's just very, very picky, and I know this because I'm his partner in podcasting and in music. So,
well, I find it bold that
fuck you.
that you're using a GIF as an avatar.
That is my face. I mean, what the hell?
Your face doesn't. Your
Never
face
mind.
exists in 4 frames per second.
In GIF
Yes.
form, yeah.
Go, Wayne. I'll reboot.
Yes, reboot yourself and come back if you want. Okay.
All right, because I want to continue more about this subject. It's very interesting.
It is very interesting. Are you guys into the conspiracy stuff?
Uh-oh.
Only things we can prove.
Yeah, exactly. There's a line there. As far as like with Laurel Canyon, that is objectively a conspiracy theory. But if you actually look into it, there's no question that there are government operatives either directly or indirectly involved with a lot of these people. Like almost all of the rock stars, they're the children of military figures or powerful politicians.
Right.
And they were all from the DC area, and then they all moved out to Los Angeles. So it's one of those things like, was it a conspiracy theory? Like maybe that's just a coincidence. Of course it could be a coincidence, but there's too many things surrounding that topic. But I think there are a lot of conspiracies that exist to make people that actually look into things that there's like something fishy going on, just to look crazy.
Yeah.
And so like I try to be like DJ said, like if we can prove it, but like if someone says like so and so was done this, it's like, okay, I'll just believe you, and that's that. Like I need to see a little more effort. like the thing that was coming out about like the correlation of heart disease and seed oils.
Hmm.
So as they got away from whole foods and they started using seed oils and foods, like we just saw a rise in heart disease. Well, what's the conspiracy? Well, did they do that to depopulate the planet? Probably not. They probably just did that to save money, and they didn't care about any long-term effects.
Yeah.
But you're going to see people that will say like, "Oh, it's part of the mass depopulation agenda." I haven't seen any 6 foot tall lizards walking around. Speaking of which, Jesse Ventura's signing a Legends deal, and I'm really excited that he's coming back to the WWE.
It will be fun. He needs to come back.
Well, now that Vince McMahon is out of the picture, it's a little easier for him to join because he'll never forgive him for not letting the wrestlers unionize.
Yeah. That's a very good impression, by the way.
Thank you. I do that one in the Macho Man. Those are my 2 favorites. Oh yeah.
Is that is that it?
Well, that's his most famous catchphrase. Oh yeah.
Can you do Craig Goldy?
Am I not doing him right now?
Well, AC, you're using his picture. All right. And you guys.
No, that's my picture. What are you
all right,
talking
all right,
about?
That's you. All right.
That's
fine.
that's just me.
Craig, you were
Some
on
people
the
say we look alike.
Craig, you were on the Metal Podcast not too long ago.
I'm sorry. I was on an ambush that was disguised as information. And it was led by 2 people that are just losers that wallow in despair. But I'm not saying anything bad about them. They're just focusing on their failures. I want to help people move past that. I have a 501c3.
Yes, you do. You help a lot of people.
I help a lot of people. Just give me $150 and I'll teach you how to be helped. And it's a 501c3.
Well, you guys had him on your show, and it was going well for a while. Then all of a sudden, he just up and left because he didn't like what you guys were saying.
Well, he had to go to the doctor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure he did. What kind of doctor? Maybe
A proctologist, probably. That's what I assume.
maybe had to get a lobotomy, or maybe he already had one.
He already had one.
Yeah, Ludwig von Beethoven. He likes your Randy Savage impersonation.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Ludwig.
But tell me about that interview, because that's one thing that you guys you really had a hard time with trying to talk to him. So tell me about that and let the people know, because they can go back and go check out that episode. But tell me about that interview that you did with him.
Well,
Yeah,
DJ, what do you think? Do you want to lead this one?
Sure. I can give the kind of the background because I met someone that Valerie Ince online, and she said I think she was like the manager for blanking out. It's like the rock and roll fantasy camp or
camp.
something like
Oh,
that.
okay,
Yeah.
yep.
So she's like, "Oh, I've got plenty of contacts, like have me on." And we had her on for her own episode. And she's like, "Oh, if you have me on and have these other guests, I'll be able to like get more out of them. They'll feel more comfortable." I'm like, "Okay, that sounds good, but most of the people, like I hadn't heard of Craig Goldy before, but hey, I guess he was in
Well,
Dio, so
and fun story. I asked him about Master of the Moon, and I only asked him about that because I was looking him up while we were talking to him because I had no idea what Dio albums he was on.
All right.
I knew Dio, Jimmy Bain, and Vivian Campbell. Those were the Dio members that I knew. I was like, who is this guy? Was he on like one album and some time?
Right,
And then
right.
turns out kinda. He was, I think, 3 records.
Right.
He got fired in 1988 off that tour because of low concert sales because no one wanted to look at his face.
yeah. Let's see. I don't think I spoke to him on the phone or anything. And she had told me like, oh, he's not really the most technologically advanced. It might be hard for him to do this, or whatever. I'm like, okay, I mean that's not a big deal. I've had to help another lackluster guest with that, and someone, yeah. And I think the first 30 minutes or so we spent trying to fix his audio, which was kind of interesting because you would think someone that records albums and helps others.
You would think
like,
so.
it would
Yeah.
could have decent sounding audio, but no, it was rough. I think AC had to clean it up a lot. Yeah, and we got some interesting, pieces about him talking about the grunge movement being, going to Seattle before it took off, and apparently it was about like a bunch of like record producers or record labels, like something about what was like prostitution and
They
stuff.
were going to, because they were sex trafficking in
Yeah.
Seattle, and these record executives were going there, and they found grunge music there at the time. So it wasn't like they were going there and grunge was on the rise and they were checking it out. They just picked that up because that was something they happened to see while they were going to sexually abuse runaways.
Hmm.
And that went over his head, by the way.
Right.
Like that was something like we were like, ooh, that's an interesting piece of the puzzle, because kind of the mission of the Metal Podcast has been to find out exactly the point in which they decided to remove metal from the mainstream. Because we had Rick Ernst on our show, and he produces the 48 Hours, or that show about the horrible crime in these terrible areas.
Right.
Formerly
And-
hosted by William Shatner, correct?
Oh, I don't know, maybe
Okay.
possible.
Yeah, I
but-
think so.
I don't know. Maybe he was the producer on it. So
okay.
I've never watched the show, but he was an intern on Headbangers Ball. And then he said that there was an order given to turn off the metal at the peak of metal's popularity. So it wasn't like, all right, people aren't calling into the Total Request Live anymore, asking for Enter Sandman. All right, guys, pack it up. But it was like right after Black Album Countdown, like as these bands they were just really right before kind of like the new metal boom.
Right.
They just said turn it off. But the new metal bands got to stay, but everything else went away. So there's clearly a coordinated effort. But they've clearly been trying to replace it with other I'd say less masculine rock acts. Like grunge is very low T. There's some of it that I do like, but for the most part, it's very nihilistic, and it's very feminine in its lyrical content, and the attitude that comes with it. So that was clearly something that they said, "Ooh, this will help fill the void while we're turning metal off." And there's some 15-year-old girls that we can violate. So we best of both worlds for all these people. And he couldn't piece that together, that's what we were focusing on. And he even brought that. He's like, "You agreed with me when I said that earlier." It's like, well, yeah, but you weren't part of the conversation that we're talking about.
They're talking about Craig Goldy, Lou.
I figured.
Yeah, wonderful episode. With
I was watching
Craig.
while I was rebooting. So
Okay.
Yeah,
You treat him like I treat DJ.
I treat him just as bad. Don't worry, AC.
DJ doesn't treat me bad. He knows the rules.
no.
Yeah,
Only out there.
it's funny because I used to work for Viacom, MTV, or Paramount as they're known now, for about 11 and a half years.
Sumner
And
Redstone.
during the Sumner Redstone era. So we're talking 2004 till 2015. So 2005 was when 2004, Headbangers Ball was already brought back, but it was relegated to the 10 to midnight slot on Saturdays. But the Latino MTV channels were still showing metal, but not metal like Testament or Deicide or anything like that. Like, I guess you could say it was more whatever fell under the emo hardcore banner. So bands like
Bullet
Atreyu,
for My Valentine, As I Lay Dying.
from From On to Ashes, like around that stuff. So yeah, and I guess I could say this, but that was really it wasn't so much the beginning, but it was sort of the continuation and further successful movement towards making masculinity look like a very bad thing.
Wah, wah,
So
wah, wah. That's what they all sound like. Wah, yeah.
Well, and that was an interesting transition because during that period, right before all those bands kind of exploded, there was a bunch of they're now legacy bands that all had really strong albums in 2004. Behemoth had Demigod, Megadeth came back with System Has Failed. I can't remember the Opeth album that came out in 2004, but Ozzy had an album. Master of the Moon came out. Heretic, Morbid Angel. It was just all these like really Tempo of the Damned, which I do think is the best Exodus record. There was just a lot of great bands, and then it was a really good comeback for metal. And it wasn't like this was the only year. Like 2005 still had some good stuff too, but then it's followed by all these like Hot Topic, like Eyeliner and Pain and Nails bands. And they're really feminine, and I don't really have a problem with just straight emo, like Newfound Glory or Dashboard Confessional. Those bands have their own place, but it's not hard rock. It's kind of the equivalent of like Bread or REO Speedwagon, just for a more modern audience. And it would be like, and again, like nothing wrong with REO Speedwagon or Bread, but it would imagine going to see Black Sabbath and then REO Speedwagon's opening. It was there was a tour. I think it was either I think it was Nine Inch Nails that opened for Prince. It might have been the other way around, but I'm pretty sure Nine Inch Nails opened for Prince, and it was a really polarizing reaction from the audience when you have Nine Inch Nails and then Prince comes out in his underwear. And it's completely different.
I don't remember that at all. But 2004, I remember that was the best Ozfest ever because you had the original lineup of Sabbath. That Maiden was 2005. Okay. That was the year that Sharon egged them. Yeah. Bitch. Anyways, but 2004, you had Priest reunited with Halford. Right. You had the original Slayer lineup, and you had probably one of the best second stages I've ever seen. But to add, it's funny, but to add what I was saying before about that whole, demasculinizing thing, whatever you want to call it. I remember at the time at MTV, we were also getting pushed towards taking these training classes, which I don't think taking harassment courses so that you understand, company policy. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing that people were pushing it. However, I remember I said this to some of the head honchos there. I said, that's okay to promote that within the corporate framework. Why aren't we promoting that same ideology in our content? I remember I asked him that question, and that's when I first heard the term problematic used as an adjective to describe me. So, there's definitely something odd within the corporate work structures where it's like, I feel like sometimes they do a lot of harm towards, helping people grow based on merit.
Well, when you say they do a lot of harm, do they do any good?
I mean, look, I work from home, so I can't harass anybody if I even wanted to. So
sure you could if you wanted to,
but I wouldn't. But I think having those training courses in play is a good thing. I just wish that whatever people promote as a product would be the kind of, environment that they're promoting within the corporate work frame.
I at my most recent job, I had to take one of those, like, I don't know what you call them, one of those sensitivity videos. It was something weird.
That's pretty much what it is. Yeah.
Right. I'd never done that before because it was the first time I'd gotten a new job in many years because I had the same job for a really long time. I'm like, okay, well, it's, move into a new career. But I had to watch that, and it had the strangest thing I'd ever seen, where it was like you have a bias without showing that you have a bias. So if you treat someone differently, or no, if you don't treat someone differently, because of the color of their skin, gender, or sexual orientation, you may be treating them differently because you're going out of your way to not treat them differently. And that shows it was called like silent bias. It was the most
Unconscious
communist, maybe it was unconscious
That's
bias.
what
It
it
was the
is.
most communist double speak nonsense crap I'd ever heard in my life. And I was talking to my coworkers. I said, "The hell is this? Like, what is this?" And they just kind of go, "I don't know, man. I just work here, dude." It was the most bizarre thing I've ever dealt with. I'm like, what? So like if there's like a black person, do I have to like call him racial slurs to show that I'm not like what is going on here? Because like it basically said if I treat someone that's not like me the same as anyone else, I'm treating them with an unconscious bias because I'm trying not to discriminate against them. And I think that's just where we've ended up because liberalism it's a line, like in mathematical terms, where it just never ends. And we're at the point like, California passed a bill that basically made pedophilia legal, within a certain age. Like if you're 10 years older and the child's 14, that's still legal. It's a very, very strange thing, but you can't quote unquote progress anymore. So now we're at the point where you have to treat like child molesters as equals, and then now they're going to get offended at this and this, and these people get offended, and everyone's getting offended. But you basically put all these crazy people in charge, so it's no longer about like we're all humans, we're one race, we're the human race. Now it's like a dog pile of insanity, and if you're a normal person, you're now the freak. So like what do you do in this kind of environment? Like you can't do anything because literally psychopaths are at the helm. And going back to like hearing the term problematic, well, eventually they just let these people that kind of eked their way in to these high profile institutions, and they were woefully unqualified for. And then they set new rules, and they set rules to basically keep the normal people out. And they've created a cycle where they only let in more psychopaths because normal people are going to disrupt their psychotic structure. And then now the country is essentially collapsing because it is ran by communist psychopaths that are just trying to destroy everything good because they're not that. And they see anything good as a threat to their way of life. Like these are people that think it's normal to be on antidepressants. They think it's a good thing to be in therapy. They think it's a good thing to kill babies. They think it's a good thing to just sell their bodies. And normal people are seen as oppressors. And they don't even have to do anything. Like they don't. Yeah, it's not very inclusive. I agree. I am problematic. Yes.
He can see the message board.
Yeah,
Well,
and
It's too bad we don't have Manny and James on this because I'd like to hear their takes on it.
No, we don't want them here.
well, and even going back to the Craig Goldy episode,
I was
Who
gonna
are
say,
you?
who's
I haven't heard you
where-
speak all
where-
day.
where things kind of
who's Craig Goldy?
Yeah,
apparently he gets
Not Vivian Campbell.
Well,
Yeah,
what
damn
really,
right he's not.
what,
Get you
what
going,
really
though.
set him off was just the blanket statement of, "Hey, the world is different now than it was in the '80s," and oh no, like it's
No,
nothing's
you don't have a
different.
good enough attitude.
Yeah, exactly. You need to just work hard and
Pull yourself up by your
pull-
bootstraps.
Yep. And if you got the talent, you're gonna make it. So because you don't have a successful business podcast, if you're not, successful with the guitar, making millions, that means you're not talented. Like the only talented people, make money and are
Talented
successful.
people like JoJo Siwa and Cardi B.
Ice
Cardi
Spice.
Cardi B, a
Yeah.
retarded prostitute, very talented.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I'm a huge fan of the MCU, and I'm so glad what they did for Robert Downey Jr.'s career because I was a fan of his growing up. So seeing him cast in the role of Tony Stark, which is a role that I thought he was born for, was a great thing, and it was great to see him come back to prominence again as a leading actor. But you know, I mean, look at the onslaught of output from Marvel since Endgame, with the exception of two films, and I didn't see the Spider-Man films, but I heard those are good. But
That one made a lot of money. I know that.
but with the exception of Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and Deadpool and Wolverine, I could have honestly given two shits about the rest of their output. I did not care for it at all. And as you know, maybe it was whatever message they were trying to push in there, or maybe it was just the fact that there was no investment of care or time into growing these stories, you know. And I think it's kind of sad that we're kind of living in a world where it's like, you know, people are just kind of forced to accept whatever they put forth in the mainstream. And you know, I think for 30 years I've tried to avoid personally what's been popular in the mainstream because I've always tried to tell myself there has to be more to life than just what we're used to, than just convention.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the MCU because a surprise, like a number more than zero, is surprising that a lot of people think Wakanda is a real like country.
Please tell me you're joking.
He's not
No,
joking.
I'm not.
I've seen that. After Black Panther came out, I think that was the number one search on Google is either is Wakanda real or where is Wakanda located?
Or where can I buy vibranium? Oh, for God's sakes.
Yeah, so
I
it's
don't
like
think they
you're saying,
wanted the vibranium. They just wanted to live in Wakanda.
I wanted the vibranium. I would love a cap shield. Why not? Who wouldn't?
right, and like the like you're saying, like trying, like I mean, we tried our best to kind of avoid this stuff. Like 15 years ago, we realized like, hey, like all the songs that are played everywhere are rap songs, and there's some people that okay, well, just because I don't listen to it, so it means it doesn't exist. Well, no, this is like what everyone is just it's out in front of them. It's marketed to kids, and it's really not something you can get away from because we become like desensitized. Well, I guess this is the world now. Well, wouldn't it be better if like Megadeth was like the best artist or Iron Maiden? Because these metal bands and like the metal stereotypes, these people aren't out there like Cannibal Corpse. They're not peeling people's skins and digging up corpses. Like they're like
Well,
nerds.
in fact, rappers are doing that.
I was just gonna
Rappers are
say
digging
that.
people up.
Right.
Yeah,
They are, and they're all using the satanic imagery and stuff like that. So
exactly.
it's very strange how R&B and rap and hip hop have like completely taken over,
Yeah.
which is fine because metal's always been underground anyway. So, and I kind of like it that way because now I don't have to hear my shit on the radio every 5 minutes like I hear now, like things, but that's just how metal has always been to me, underground.
It was as good as Rain and Blood is. I don't know if that was a chart topper. I'm going to assume it's at least gold. It might be platinum, but that was probably something that took 15, 20, 30 years to do. Like very few of what we'll call them like the classic metal bands have had albums that were like big chart toppers upon release. Like I can't remember when this was. This may have been in like 2006 or 7, but like Morbid Angel at that time, they had sold 1 million copies of their albums, but that was their whole discography. And it was always, it's kind of hard to manipulate like metal music as far as like we need to put a message in it. Like you can try, but it's just so artificial because the fans want something more pure. Whereas people that listen to pop music, I guarantee you, if you were to do some kind of IQ test for all of them, you would find that their IQ was probably 10, 20, 30, 40 points on average lower than the people that like hard rock or metal. Even though a lot of metal people come off as kind of grug and stupid. I mean, people that anyone that owns a Bad Bunny shirt, I'm sorry, you're not going to convince me that they have more than an 85 IQ. You're just
I don't get Bad Bunny whatsoever.
I'll
Isn't he
tell
a
you about
He's a rapper. He's
Bad
and a wrestler, I
Bunny.
think.
well, he tries to be, but yeah.
Oh, he tries to be okay.
I know him and Post Malone were in one of the recent WWE 2K games.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
But yeah, Bad Bunny, he's Puerto Rican, so he has a huge Latin fan base. Like that's it. Like I think it was within 5 months of him starting recording, he had a #1 record. I mean, it's not SoundScan, but whatever metric that they use now. How many plays did he get on Spotify? I'm sure it's something to do with that, because especially people that like that type of music, they're not buying like physical copies of anything. Like you give them a CD, they would probably put it on a turntable. They wouldn't know what that is.
Right.
You give them a cassette, they'll put it in a VCR. They have no idea what any of this stuff is, because these aren't music fans. These
Right.
are the NPC people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's go ahead.
I was gonna say Bad Bunny was invited to like perform at the Super Bowl. Like that's the biggest
Really?
event with Cardi B. They did like a song together. So that's where we're at. And rap used to be, I mean, when it first started, or the gangster rap, it was kind of like bitches and hoes, like, oh, isn't that funny? Like, you know,
Right.
you know, and it's because all of us, the culture, we're so disconnected from that. Like there's nothing we have in common with any of these people. Even now when they take like those the girls take the selfies and they get their butt in the picture, it's like no one likes that except for these rappers. Like we have nothing in common, but now it's the dominant culture. Like it's over.
Right.
See, I admit though, growing up in New York City, where I was exposed to metal through my brothers, and when I got to go to shows at CBGBs for myself, like when I first heard hardcore rap, gangster rap, whatever you want to call it, when I first heard NWA or Onyx or maybe not so much Public Enemy, but I'll say NWA and Onyx, I liked it because I thought it was heavy, and I appreciated the rhythm. I appreciate the anger behind it. I felt like it was kind of honest. But when I started working in the industry, and I kind of realized, wait a second, you have a lot of people who are kind of puppet masters holding their strings above others to make it work and become successful. And I remember, as a kid in middle school in the 90s, when gangster rap started becoming popular, who did all the kids try to emulate? The gangster rappers.
Crisscross.
Dude, seriously.
They wore their pants backwards for easy access.
They make you jump.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, so although I could look back and still say I still enjoyed that music, I still enjoyed Ice-T and Body Count, even I have to admit, was this pre-planned?
Yes.
Were a lot of things pre-planned? Like, how come when it came to metal in the mainstream, people always only thought of it as power ballads? And a couple of years ago, you even had the recent rumor that the CIA worked with the Scorpions to do Wind of Change. And then all of a sudden, after that was over, it's like,
me.
And then after that was over, it's like people poo-pooed on the Scorpions because, hair metal, forgetting that they were a band for over 20 years by that point. So.
Well, that's the music industry is controlled by the CIA. So, I'm not going to give Scorpions too hard of a time for doing that, because all it takes is just one producer saying like, "Hey, you guys, you want to hit?" Like if it came out tomorrow that Bob Rock was a CIA asset, I wouldn't say, "Oh, look, Metallica was a CIA op." Even though I do think that was an op to kill metal, I think the Black Album was deliberately done just to change what thrash metal bands were doing, because they all started chasing that success of the Black Album. They all slowed down. Like every record after that, we got Countdown to Extinction, The Ritual, Divine
Right.
Intervention, Force of Habit. They all did it. They all did it. So I think that was not necessarily a CIA thing, but I do think all this was planned. And a good metaphor for rap's push, it's it's no different than the Ultimate Warrior's push. Like the Ultimate Warrior sucked, but because of how he was presented, he became the number one guy. And the
Mhm.
thing is, when he was there on his own, he just flopped, and that's why they got rid of him. And that's why with all these like modern rappers, they don't last. And it's not just because they kill each other, which they do. The average rapper, I think, is murdered. Like 52% of rappers are murdered by their 25. But once they don't have any power, they push a new one in. They have a revolving door ready. And DJ and I have talked about this ad nauseum about how I guarantee you they are using AI to just make all these new songs.
Oh,
So they don't have to worry about training a new band. Whereas if you have a metal band, you got to teach them the songs. You gotta get them to play well together. And that's just so much more effort than AI write me generic rap song like slap the bitch in the club like that. How it's not hard.
yeah.
I don't think it's any different in country either, to be quite honest.
Oh, definitely now. I think you're right now. Like country is really getting rapified.
Or
Oh,
broed
yeah,
out.
there's rap country,
Whatever,
right?
Right,
Yeah. Yeah, you got that Jelly Roll guy.
I mean, my wife and I
Yes.
went to Nashville in 2010 because she's a singer songwriter herself, and
She's just a rapper.
not a rapper.
She probably could do it. Anyone can rap.
Gangster rap.
And shut up, Wayne.
How many people has
yeah,
she
yeah.
killed?
My wife comes from the hood of Hicksville, New York. Give me a break. No, but but I remember, like, we met with a couple of people from Curb, and we even met some songwriters who worked with Loretta Lynn back in the day, and pretty much they were all like, her music doesn't paint a picture, and I'm like, and Taylor Swift's does. Like, what the hell do you mean paint a picture? Verse, chorus, solo, whatever, final chorus, tell a story, write a song. What do you mean doesn't paint a picture? Meanwhile, every freaking male country singer I hear today, every song starts out with "Hey girl." Every chorus is
Girl, yeah.
"Let's drink a beer and go on the road and make love by the swamp" or whatever. It's like, come on, don't tell me there's not someone controlling the strings with that. I got a big problem with you country bastards because none of y'all ain't Willie or Waylon or Johnny. So fuck y'all.
You mentioned Onyx before, by the way. I just wanted to show you this cassette.
Slam. Da,
Yeah.
da, da.
Selling it on eBay, by the way. So if you want that cassette,
I don't have
Parental
a cassette player,
advisory,
dude.
people. Okay, keep it away from your kids, but
I'm sorry. Gentlemen,
they can have it
continue.
if they want.
DJ, what do you think about what I said
well,
about country?
Well, we had one of our guests was in Ronnie Millsap's band, and he
Mhm.
kind of
Henrik?
yeah, John Heinrich, and he kind of had a similar kind of take on that it's been definitely influenced. You don't have many of these old, what do you call them, old school, these wholesome country artists. I mean, I think even Post Malone has a country album now. Beyonce has a country album. This is the word I listened to a song. It's horrible. It's so bad.
Yes, Hook, I am a typical New Yorker. Sue me. Anyways,
there's another rapper who just did a country album.
Was it pre Malone?
you mentioned Jelly Roll.
No, it wasn't Jelly Roll.
Was it Yee?
Maybe it was Post Malone. Was Post Malone do?
Oh, well, he did. DJ did say Post Malone.
Yeah,
You did say,
yeah,
okay,
I said,
all right,
yeah,
you did.
Post
Well,
Malone.
all right.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. I don't
What's
get it.
interesting, maybe you guys will hate this, but I think Taylor Swift actually gets a little bit unfair criticism. I do not like her music at all. I think it's the most cheesiest bubblegum pop. But and she doesn't have the most. I mean, she talks about like her ex-boyfriends who deflowered her and whatever, but it's nothing compared to these female rappers. Like they are the most like atrocious, degenerate, like Sexy Red. Like I hate that I know that she exists, but like there's no one worse that like people like that. But it's gotten to the point where metal musicians, they have talent. Like, you don't play that type of music without being able to play your guitar or sing at a high level like Judas Priest. I mean, Rob Halford's 73 years old now. Like, these guys have lasted. But when you have talent, you have choices. You could tell the record company, well, it's not ready, it'll come out in 2 months. When you don't have talent and you have these synthetic beats that sound like they're made in a lab somewhere, you don't have a choice. Oh, well, yeah, you're going to have an OnlyFans. You're going to shake your butt. We actually did an episode, almost like a two-parter, in a space of almost like a year, because Cardi B had thrown a microphone at someone at one of her concerts. Well, the video came out and she was still singing, even though she had already thrown her microphone. So it's all a sham. And if I like that music, like, oh, it's like I got fooled, but she's bigger than ever.
But the only problem is with that is the metal bands are doing the same thing now too, though.
Motley Crue. And we've had some guys who are like, I don't care if they're just doing backup tracks. I
Yes,
love
yeah.
Motley Crue.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think it's honestly more than Motley Crue. A lot of
no, it is. It
It's-
is. No, it is. It is. But Motley Crue's just the most famous. No, we
Yeah.
had some people on recently that just essentially said more people are doing that than you know. Yeah, so the Misfits played in San Bernardino recently, and a guy I know, he went and he's like, it was so obvious that it was all backup tracks that they were lip syncing to, and it wasn't just them; it was all the people there. Because I want to say like Dead Kennedys were there, and Iggy Pop, like there was just like a bunch of really old bands, and they're still going at it. And we talked about this recently, like the Who had their farewell tour in like
Which one?
83. No, the first one in like 83. But these bands, they can go longer than they can because it is hard to play a live show. And when you're 22 and you can go for hours at anything, then that's one thing. But then once you're 40, then 50 and 60, it's still hard, especially if you're singing and playing guitar. But if you're not doing anything, well, then you can just keep going and you can just keep collecting your check. So there's no reason to have a farewell tour anymore because you're not doing anything. And digital technology is so good that you can have it sound live. How many live albums, like the prominent ones, are faked?
They're all
Doctored,
fake.
almost all of them.
I don't think there's any real ones. Unless you
The
do like
only
a
one-
bootleg.
I was going to say the one I think is genuinely real is the Misfits Evil Live because it sounds so
like
terrible.
shit.
It sounds awful. It's awful. That was
Yeah.
the first live record I ever heard. And I was like, why would anyone ever listen to a live record? And then a DJ, a friend of ours in high school, he's like, no, you got to hear Kiss Alive. And then I heard that. I'm like, wow, this sounds nothing like that other terrible album. But, Unleashed in the East, I think, is probably the most famous of the fake live albums.
Oh, yeah.
But
No,
so you just use that same magic because if you're playing to a CD, like someone would know, like that's the Sentinel from Defenders of the Faith. Like you're not playing that, but you can just make it sound fake,
right.
or make it sound live.
Mhm.
And a lot of people wouldn't know unless you count your drums out of time, like Nikki Sixx did. No, Tommy Lee, but Nikki Sixx probably did it too. You switch them around. Who knows?
I mean, I know Ronnie Radke of Falling in Reverse got into shit. He got into some shit last fall, late summer, early fall, because the laptops that had the settings for their live show were missing. So they canceled their performance. And all of a sudden you had that baboon Eddie Trunk and Sebastian Bach himself talking about, this is what the fans pay for fake shows, live shows, and this and that. Meanwhile, it's not that Falling in Reverse fakes their live performances. It's just, to cut down on overhead costs, because let's face it, touring is a lot more expensive now than it's ever been before. And you have to take into account union fees, your cruise fees, food, gas, things like that. So you want to cut down on overhead. So you have everything pre-planned into laptops, such as lighting or cues or, click tracks, because also you don't want to go into union overtime hours, because I don't know if a lot of people know this. The Score concert that Dream Theater played at Radio City Music Hall, they went 2 minutes over. So their show ended at 11:02. They ended up owing almost $60,000 in overtime union fees. So I think I will back Ronnie Radke up and say, hey, you know what? They are going on stage and they are performing live for the audience, but they're also trying to save costs and make sure that people get their dollars worth and make sure that they get their full performance in for themselves and the fans. And that's far more than I could say about Sebastian Bach, who hasn't been relative since 1989, and Eddie Trunk, who his freaking musical tastes don't extend past 1989.
I am not an Eddie Trunk fan, but Ronnie Radke, is he asking Alexandria also?
No, that's Danny Worsnop.
Okay. I knew there was some connection, but I'm not quite my forte.
I think one was a Sumerian band, the other one was an Epitaph band. So
I don't even know what that means. One was like from an ancient civilization that disappeared.
record labels, they're record labels.
Oh, I didn't know where you were going with that either.
Yeah, I don't know where I'm going ever. Anyways,
I have heard of that with bands having a specific time that they can't get over, and it's like at least like a $10,000 fee or fine. I mean, in that case, 60,000. That's crazy. I have heard, and I need to look into this a little bit. Actually, I don't know how important it is, but I saw that some venues are they're saying that people aren't drinking as much alcohol anymore.
I'm not paying $15 for no Stella Artois.
Yeah.
Would you pay 15 for a natural light?
Not Natty Ice. Oh.
Okay. So I was watching an old episode of Raw the other day. It was the one where Linda and Stephanie made Stone Cold the CEO, and they had celebratory natural lights. Like, oh my gosh, how awful! That was the worst part of that.
Stone Cold must have been getting punished from the higher ups. They're like, we're not giving you Miller Light, we're giving you Natty Light.
Well, they were punishing the Undertaker during that period, so maybe they're punishing everybody.
Just throw cucumbers at the Undertaker, though. Not cucumbers, pickles. He doesn't like pickles.
Well, he doesn't like cucumbers either.
Yeah, they're both the same thing.
That's true. One's just salty.
Yeah.
I do think it is
Wayne.
funny. There you go. I think it is funny that there's like a complaint, like people aren't drinking enough.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, isn't that a good thing that people are drinking less?
But you can understand it because of the prices of the drinks. And just like I went to a concert, well, this is probably 2 years ago now, when Merciful Fate came to Brooklyn, and I was going to buy a shirt. I wanted to buy a shirt, and it was $40 for a t-shirt. I'm like, why is it $40? It's like usually like $25, $30. And then I find out that the clubs are taking the
3%.
They're taking it from the bands. And then, finally they got that taken away. But of course, people aren't going to buy stuff at shows if they're overpriced, especially drinks. Why are you going to buy a drink? You paid for the ticket for the show, which has I just saw somebody the other day post something. They went to go buy tickets, and then with the fees, it was another $70. And they were just like, I'm not going to go now, because why do I want to tack on another $70 to my ticket?
Or like $90 to park. I've seen
that's the thing too. You buy a ticket for the show, and then you got to park, and then there's another thing. Just like I'm going to the zoo tomorrow, and I paid for my ticket, but there's also a parking fee. It's like you can't just park.
Oh, you want to breathe oxygen? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
there's another fee for that too.
Perrier, like in Spaceballs. And Wayne, you're going to the zoo tomorrow? I'm sure they'll thank your wife for returning you. Anyways, resume.
Got him.
Okay, that went over your head. Sorry.
That was
Wayne.
supposed to be funny.
I guess it wasn't. Anywho, moving right along.
You're fired.
And back.
No,
You
fired.
did your best.
Um,
So how much? Let's say you go to Albertsons. How much is a tall boy of? Well, just humor me, of a Budweiser.
I could tell you a tall boy of the Twisted Tea is $5 over here.
Okay, I would assume a Budweiser would be cheaper than that, and generally
same price actually. I think.
Okay, all right. So we'll say $5. Okay, so you're going to probably get half of that for 3 times the price, because it's not like for $15 you're getting something imported or like craft beer, like something good. You're getting the most like bottom of the barrel macro brew. You're getting Coors, Budweiser, or like Michelob. You're getting something crappy. So this goes back to the seed oil thing. Like they're just upcharging crap because they're trying to get you like, oh, you need a beer to have a good time, and like where does the cost go? Because I know they have to pay the staff, but with all these fees that we've talked about, like okay, the extra parking and then the service fee and taking a percentage of the merch, it seems like pointless upcharging.
Plus, a lot of the venues around here are cashless. So you have to use debit or credit, and you're going to get hit with that credit debit fee, which is fucking asinine.
And if you got that bad social credit, then you can't even use your credit card because you said naughty things on Facebook one time.
And then they're going to ask you for a tip. The tip
And
thing
my-
always comes up on the credit card machine.
And my tip is the same every time. Don't eat the yellow snow. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
I'll give
Wait,
you a
I can use that option.
Yeah.
That under other.
Yeah. What do you guys got coming up on your show? Any cool guests or anything?
DJ's the booker. DJ's the pencil.
Yeah.
He's Kevin Sullivan.
Yeah. I mean, we've got,
R.I.P.
Yes.
Yes.
we recently kind of changed our recording days, so
Mhm.
we had to cancel a good amount of guests or reschedule. So we're still working on that. I actually need to get a guest for the Sunday. What are you guys doing?
Sunday. I'm not doing anything Sunday. I'll be more than welcome to be a guest. But
I'd
I
be-
sent AC a guy who would be a really good guest for your show. King
Okay.
Guy
Farrell.
from Deceased.
Yes, you will have a lot of fun with him on your show. So you definitely have to contact him.
Yeah, and sometimes a guest is not necessarily a good thing for us because we generally operate best when it's just us two and like we find interesting things because what DJ and I find interesting generally is not the same as what a guest would find interesting. We had one guest that after we stopped recording, they were in. We had two guests. Well, one we already knew about was our good friend from Evanescence, but
Oh yeah.
other than that, with guests, we try to kind of talk about their stuff while then kind of steering them towards the modern music culture because that's more interesting. Like we had Zoltan Bathory from Five Finger Death Punch on, and the whole time we were just talking about martial arts and fighting and that type of stuff. Because like we have a guy on like when did you start playing guitar? Where do you get your idea? Like that's not interesting. There's a billion other shows on the internet with that. So we generally find stories on the internet. Now, before the P. Diddy thing broke, we actually found all that stuff and we were putting together a big episode and then it just all came out and that was such a nightmare. But we're working on something else. We're working on a follow-up to our Laurel Canyon miniseries, and we're doing kind of a more expose on punk and the CIA origins of that. And as much as I do love punk music as a music form, it is 100% an op. It is absolutely just meant to be. It's corporate HR propaganda disguised as the underdog. And that's just kind of the history of all media. Is you think what you think because you saw it on a movie or a TV show, and a lot of it really did come from MTV.
Right.
MTV had a huge influence on the realm of thought, if you would, for the youth. They had so many specials that basically just changed how everyone perceived things. Because most people live their life in their own bubble. They work, they have their small social clique. Maybe every now and then they'll go to someplace outside the city, maybe a vacation for a week or two a year, but they don't interact with 99% of the rest of the country, let alone the world. So they have no idea what the world is like.
Right.
But in their mind, they do because they've seen so many movies. I know what Georgia's like. I've seen The Walking Dead. I know what California's like. I've listened to the Beach Boys. I know what Florida's like. I read the news. So like everyone knows how all these things are, but when confronted with reality, they have no idea what is actually waiting for them. But that's kind of what the media has done. And going back to Operation Mockingbird, which the CIA controls the media. And I'm not someone that's like the CIA. I'm not, that was a line from the X-Files, the greatest threat to humanity of the 20th century, the CIA. The CIA is its own sinister thing, but the CIA does not rule the world. But the CIA definitely is the intelligence agency that has the resources and the manpower that can infiltrate, and they don't even need to infiltrate it. They just help these media networks just kind of, here's how you get your network messages out to in a way that people can digest it, and they're going to take it in. Because we could go, because of YouTube, we could all go live on anything and just tell people anything. That doesn't mean that people are going to digest it. Like you could say something that is the most undeniably true statement. Like, let's say tomorrow you discover who actually rules the world, and you could show diagrams, like here's the people involved, here's how they influence this, that, and whatever. But how many people would actually believe you?
Right.
Because of how the media has warped everyone's brain. It's like, well, who do you believe? It's me or your lying eyes. That's where we've been stuck for so many years. And going back to the crux of the metal podcast is, this is why metal is not popular in the mainstream, because stupid people listen to bad music because that's what's available to them. They aren't smart enough to know, okay, this is a generic 4/4 beat with nothing intellectually stimulating, and there's no message in these lyrics. There's got to be something else. They just go, this in front of me take it. It's like, they keep shoving the popcorn in your fat, stupid faces, and then keep listening to the terrible, retarded stripper Cardi B. Like that's all they have, because it's what's in front of them. So if you just turn off that metal faucet, no one's going to know that, there's nutrition there. Just go to that. And it's all about how it's been presented. And unfortunately, all of these things kind of compound on each other. You teach people to be stupid, and then you give them the slop, and they're too dumb to know, okay, don't eat the slop. There's all the food you need over there, and it's good for you, where this just makes you fat and stupid. Like, no, this good for me. Me like it because man in TV say good. Man TV say funny thing. Therefore, funny man, he mean good. He mean good for me. He mean more good for me than my dad. My dad, bad man. He say that no good.
I didn't see it in a Netflix documentary, so what do you know?
Yeah, exactly. There's no bias in Netflix. It has nothing. The founder of Netflix isn't related to Sigmund Freud and Edward Bernays, who wrote literally the book on propaganda.
Right. And makes a good sauce, Bernays sauce.
It's very good.
It's funny because my brother-in-law, who him and I have been best friends since third grade. He told me about this documentary on Netflix about We Are the World. Apparently it was, the subtitle was A Song That Changed the World or whatever, and this and that. And, he was telling me about the fact that they called it one of the most important moments in music. And I said, I disagree with that statement. And he's like, why would you say that? And I said, what good did it do? What positive benefit was it towards the people of Africa? You know, what did it do for them? Did it garner attention? Did it garner finances? Who walked away with the finances? Who walked away with the cans of food that were saved for it? And who benefited the most from that? And I would say probably the songwriters behind it, Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson. Otherwise I couldn't explain to you how Neverland Ranch was built. You know, I said it was the ultimate virtue signal. You know, I think what Dio did with Stars was more honest and more heartfelt, and it got less attention because it was a metal song played by metal musicians.
It didn't just get less attention; it got mocked.
Right. Yep.
Which I thought was absolutely ridiculous because that's one of my favorite Dio songs. And
What?
that captures some of the best. I do love that song, Wayne.
Oh my God.
What's wrong with liking Stars?
Oh my God.
What's
Feel
wrong
the
with liking
magic.
Stars?
Have you
Where
heard
the
it?
stars
Yeah.
feel
Okay,
bright.
right
Well,
there.
well,
I don't, you know
Okay.
what? Hearing all those voices sing that just, it kind of,
AC butchered it.
You can look to the stars above.
okay,
There we go.
it's still a better song than We Are the World.
I hate both of those.
Okay, here's an interesting thing about that. They mocked a song that was meant to just be charity. It's literally like if we started a charity, like we're gonna do something like adolescent cancer charity. And then people like, look at these guys. They think they can start. Look, they suck. They have their show only has this many listeners and blah blah blah. Okay, well, you're mocking it. Like there's a right way to do a charity and a wrong way. Like I don't. This is where it's clearly it's a sham.
Mm.
So so only approved people can do a charity. You know, it's like that episode of The Simpsons. Do you remember Lisa
When Bart
wanted
fell
to?
down the well.
No, not that one. But I
Okay.
mean, that was like that too. They did make fun of that song. No, it was when Lisa wanted to clean up the oil spill because there was like a commercial where celebrities were like cleaning animals, and then it was the one where Bart worked at the burlesque house.
Mm. I
But-
vaguely remember that one.
But like Lisa begged Marge to take her to that oil spill so they could clean it up. And then Lisa's like, "Oh, first I want to save a sea lion, and then I want to save a duck, and then I was this." And then someone comes up and says, "Sorry, animals are reserved for A-list celebrities." Like, okay, well, what can we clean? Rocks, thousands and thousands of rocks.
The point I was trying to make was that I just didn't think it was genuine. Meanwhile, in 2010, I did a benefit concert. I organized a whole event where I was trying to raise money for the same brother-in-law to enter into the New York City Marathon. And Viacom was actually going to double whatever I met. So they were going to match it. You know, and I worked very hard. I used a lot of my own finances to make sure that this was going to happen. Did I get anything out of it? The only thing I got out of it was the satisfaction of knowing that my brother-in-law went over the limit, and the fact that we were able to raise money for him to run, and he did it. I never asked for praise, but when I asked for people to step up, some did, a lot didn't. I wasn't going to shame anybody, and I wasn't going to call anybody out. But, you know, a lot of people do so many charitable things that get like, you know, either brushed away, and then all of a sudden it's like, how come this gets selected as the most significant moment? You know, like and maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just cynical. You know, I don't think I'm bitter. I'm just having been in that environment for as long as I was. I don't know, I kind of wised up to it and just realized, you know, a lot of the make-believe that they present on television, in movies, and in music, you know, that same facade exists within the people who create it.
Well, those people only ever mingle with those type of people. So eventually, I'm not sure how many of them genuinely believe it versus how many know it, that it's a fraud. I guarantee all the people at the top, like your Summoner Redstones, your Bob Igers, your David Geffens, those people definitely know it's fake. Where your random rank and files, like your Bad Bunny, Iggy Azalea, Jennifer Lopez, I don't know if, because a lot of them are really unintelligent. You listen to them talk, you can tell there is very little brain activity. But one, they don't need to be smart, and two, they're never intellectually challenged. They just say stuff. All the interviews are softballs. They're constantly praised, so they're any criticism is blocked from them. So I don't know how many of them have ever stopped to think like, okay, like where is the money going? Because for all that we spent and all the stories that they've come out, like Bono's, I think it was called One, his charity, which it was ironic because only 1% actually went to charity. Literally 99% went to bureaucratic fees. And all of these, it's all like money laundering. None of these people are genuine. And these are the people that are telling you you need to take a step down in your lifestyle to save the earth. Meanwhile, Jeff Bezos just bought an $80 million jet that can go as fast as or near as fast the speed of sound, and he's invested 10 billion into fighting like climate change. These people know that it's all fake. They all know. All
Yeah.
they're doing is they're just helping push us down. And like the amount of people, like America is it's just so poor now. Very few countries are actually wealthy. Every like the wealth gap is it's insane. Like, how many people work a job where they put money in the bank every month and they're able to take a comfortable vacation and they can support a family.
Mm.
And the people at the top, they're constantly telling those people that they need to do more. Like you need to use less water in your shower. Like, you need to use less gas. You need to use less heat in the winter, less air in the summer. But none of them will. Remember The Rock and Oprah telling all the poor
Oh,
people give money to Hawaii? I mean, it's like
Yeah.
literally two billionaires saying you need to get them out of this. The amount of billionaires that could solve so many problems that are constantly asking people that live paycheck to paycheck take a step down, and nobody looks around and says, "Do you see this?" Everyone's like, "Wow, The Rock is so brave. Leonardo DiCaprio is so brave. These people, they're just they should be saints." A guy actually said to me once, "John Lennon should be a saint." Like, really? The guy that used to abuse his kids and beat his girlfriend? What a saint. But he said, give peace a chance. Yeah, but he didn't mean it. He said it
Mm.
because stupid, retarded boomers like you would believe it.
Mm.
Like
I love the Beatles, but I hate John Lennon.
sure, yeah, and that's fine. And like, I'm not 100% separate the art from an artist, but when people do, I give them a pass. There's, if you can like music and hate people, like, it's perfectly fine. I just don't separate art from the artist because at a certain point, the art influences the people listening to it, and it's very, very sinister. Like, Imagine is genuinely like a communist anthem. It's like nothing matters when you die, nothing happens. And it's not really like don't worry. It's literally your life has no meaning. Life has no meaning. Who cares? And the baby boomer generation is very hedonistic. And not all of them, of course.
They
Yeah,
were the
yeah.
ones
But
that started the adult film industry. Talk about hedonism.
no, they started a lot of things that we are now just addressing as problems. Like a lot of things that started in the 60s, we're now realizing, okay, this is experiment failed. We need to do some serious damage control. But yeah, there were boomers that were saying like, yeah, this is a problem. There were boomers protesting a lot of things that needed to be protested. But yes, great example. But a lot of people saying, oh yeah, look, imagine, oh, isn't that such a good message? Not really. I don't think there's anything good because honestly, if nothing matters, just kill yourself because one day you're going to die and it wouldn't have mattered anyway. So just end it now. Save yourself all the pain because the thing is, once you're dead, if nothing matters, then then no one's going to care because they're going to be dead. If DJ died tomorrow, like why should I be sad? Because nothing matters. He's not even a thing. And then if he dies tomorrow and then I die the next day, who cares? Nothing matters. So we should all just kill ourselves. And I do think there is a genuine coordinated genocidal effort. It is coordinated from the top down. I do believe it. And if anyone says, oh, tinfoil hat, oh, look at that. You know, if you just take a look, you can see it. Signs are all there. Like we don't need to get into it because then it becomes, another show and then we go on for hours and hours, but it only takes just a little bit of research and you can just see, like you can just track certain things and you can just look at trends and you can say, hey, look, this was okay and now this isn't. Like, hold on, something is wrong here. I don't think people that are in power, especially ones that have been in power for decades, are just accidentally letting the world burn. Like, oops, starting a war with China, Russia, and Iran. Oops, there's a housing crisis. Oops, gas and food's out of control. Oops, rent's out of control. Oops, the whole population's unhappy. Oops, gave everyone in the elite another big raise. I just don't buy it. And
DJ, you talk too much.
Yeah, well, he's rolling.
Well, here's the secret. I am DJ. DJ is me, and I'm text to speech. I type really fast.
Well,
and one of something I think is kind of an important episode we did. One of my personal favorites. We had an author, William Ramsey, on, and we discussed his book. He really, I think he was a lawyer. And then became an author, but he
became an investigative journalist.
Yeah. And so his book was about the West Memphis Three, the satanic panic, and how these just poor metalheads that just got convicted of these heinous crimes, but
not a single shred of evidence. Not a one.
And it was interesting to do that deep dive with him. I mean, he gave us a couple hours, played some pretty incredible videos, but long story short, you literally have these blood drinking, child murdering rapists are out free because of really powerful celebrities coming to their aid, like Eddie Vedder, Johnny Depp. And it's like, well, going back to even We Are Stars or We Are the World, like why is that the hill to not only die on but to address that like why are you putting so much money? I think there's 3 documentaries made. I think maybe one was it Peter Jackson made one of them. Like they really wanted to fool the public into thinking these were just good old boys, and
so you think they did it?
They 100% did it.
Yeah.
What? Okay. One, they were convicted of it. 2, they admitted to doing it. And
I didn't see.
3,
I didn't hear that.
Oh yeah, yes, that's how they got out of jail. They got out of jail by yes, we admitted we did that. They did not remove it from the record. No, if you watch the documentary, they good boys, they didn't do nothing. If you actually look at the evidence in the case, you will find nothing more they are more guilty than OJ. It's
damn.
It is insane how they used literally Hollywood movies to get child rapists and murderers off, and they got the public to come to their defense. When has Hollywood ever done anything for people that that like metal? Name one time.
I feel like all the times that they've done it, it's been either in parody or satirical.
Exactly. Yeah, I was thinking like the movie Deathgasm, where there's the meme of the guy holding the ice cream cone and like the girl next to him. Like that's the things that I think of. But yeah, no, these guys, one, his name isn't actually Damien. He changed his name to Damien. He had lied several times on the stand about that. Like, do you know who Aleister Crowley is? Like, oh, I've heard of him. Like, oh, have you ever read him? No. Okay, so what is this here? What's this say? Oh, Aleister Crowley. Oh, okay, so you do know who yeah, the guy, there are so many things up with that guy. He sells books on satanic magic. He's covered in satanic tattoos. He said that he was a Catholic. There is someone left of a message at, I don't know if it was a sheriff's department or whatever the police department is there in West Memphis, and it's like 99% his voice. It's like, police department, and he says, I killed them kids. What are you gonna do about it? But he has this kind of sing-songy way of talking, and it sounds exactly like him. They had seen him, like they had found like dead body parts in his room. They were dead, yeah, dead dogs. There was a place he used to hang out. They found a burn pit full of dead animals.
Jeez. I didn't know any of this. I saw that documentary that made them look like they didn't do it, but I'll have to read up more about this.
Oh yeah, it's one of the most insane things. And so one of our early episodes, we were sympathizing with the PMRC because the PMRC was basically just trying to do the whole like, this is not appropriate for children, but they come off as very like church lady finger waggy, but
Washington wives,
yeah,
funny because the people behind it were the exact opposite of it.
Yeah, exactly. But it was they weren't trying to straight up like censor records. They were trying to essentially do to records what they did with movies. Add like a rating, like you have to be 18 to buy this. And I don't see a problem with that. Like it all started with Tipper Gore, who, don't get me wrong, I don't like any of those people. It's just the message. She's like, okay, my daughter is listening to Darling Nikki. I mean, this is highly inappropriate for a child. I agree, because kids hear that stuff and they take it in and they don't know what they spew out. Like DJ's told the story about, the song Mr. Take Yo Bitch, where someone, a 5-year-old girl was dancing to a highly inappropriate song, and it was like dancing that you could probably describe as suggestive. And the whole satanic panic thing, it convinced people that Satanism was actually harmless. And obviously metal has the association with satanic imagery, but going back to what DJ brought up earlier, like, these people aren't like Glenn Benton isn't sacrificing people on an altar. Like Trey Asgathoth isn't like killing people and drinking blood, but people in power definitely do that. So they definitely saw 3 of their own, and then they just rallied to defend them. And because of the satanic panic, like, I guess this isn't really a big deal. This must be satanic panic. Those kids didn't do anything wrong. Oh, those backwood hicks. Ooh, they don't know anything. Someone asked the sheriff, I think, and they said 1 to 10, how guilty is Damien Eccles? I think he said 11. Like it was something like the evidence against him is insane. And yes, I think he admitted to doing, like, when he admitted in court. That's how he got out of jail. But he bragged about doing it.
No,
yeah, I'd have to go back, and that was a long time ago. I want to say we did that that was last October, I think. That was a long time ago when we did that. Yeah, I'd have to revisit it, but yeah,
I'm gonna watch that episode.
Yeah, go look into it. It is insane how guilty they were. And the one kid, he's slow. He didn't know what he was doing. He's not like, Sean Penn and I Am Sam. Like, he was just slightly below average intelligence. Yeah,
yeah, it's a one.
You're making me so choking on my own rage here.
But that's interesting. Yeah, I never heard that. And
No
going back
one
to
has.
no, that's sad. But going back to like the songs like for kids, like they had like I think it was like during the pandemic when like WAP was really a really
Yeah.
big
Yeah,
song.
number one song in the
Yeah.
world.
I'm like, why? How can that be? Because
Yeah, exactly.
you don't want a
the
little
PMRC
child
lost.
listening to that. Yeah.
Oh,
And-
and all those artists, their music is targeted at kids.
Right.
Like-
yeah. Because that's
Like-
that's what has taken over the world. And you can't get away from it. And to see that song was like so as hugely popular as it was during that time period, I was just like, what the hell's going on?
Make it sound kid friendly, and kids will buy it. So
Yeah, it's like it's the music. I want to say there probably is a psychology into how the drum beats are created to
Like
make it as
hypnotism.
make it as hypnotic as possible. Because there are a lot of songs. Because my era, the pop was like I guess they call it post grunge. And like when I was a kid, and I do look back on it and like, oh, like when I hear standing outside a broken phone booth with change in my hand, like, I get a little,
primitive radio
gets me-
gods.
yeah, it gets me in the feels. Like songs like that, like there's nothing wrong with that type of music. Hook by Blues Traveler, The Hunger Strike by Temple of the Dog, like this stuff, like this was pop at the time when I was coming up. And then just everything for kids now, there really isn't anything like that. There's no like adult contemporary, I think, is more kid friendly than the name suggests, but they don't really have that anymore. Like there's no more Phil Collins. Like that is, as silly as that South Park episode is, that is what kids should be listening to.
Love
Yeah,
me, Phil. I mean,
Ah.
the one pop song that came out in the last 4 years that I could genuinely say I truly enjoyed was "Blinding Lights" by The Weeknd.
Just sounds
just
like an 80s song.
Probably that's why, but I mean,
Yeah.
I do enjoy the song. But other than that, I remember driving in the car with my wife and daughter, and Z100, which is the modern pop station up here in New York, 3 songs in a row. And I remember telling my wife, I'm like, wow, this is like the longest song I've ever heard played on the radio. She's like, what are you talking about? We just heard 3 different songs. I said, we did? I can't tell the difference. I mean, you could tell that all these singers kind of sing in the same airy voice and then belt the chorus or whatever. And
Crank the auto-tune.
I remember starting with that what was that Kings of Leon song? Use Somebody.
Know that I could use somebody.
But in the chorus,
Like
especially in the chorus, they call that the millennial whoop. And every pop song from then for like the next 15 years had that. And if it had it, it was a hit. We don't want a copyright strike, AC. Come on.
We
But
need to
I mean-
do a millennial whoop. One of our songs.
Wayne, I will quit Severed Angel. I swear to fucking God if we do a millennial whoop.
Can we at least call a song millennial whoop?
Yeah, death to the millennial whoop.
Episode title.
Yeah,
It is a
right.
good episode title.
Well, and to your point, Lou, about those songs being not only so short. So I admit this. I have been to one rap concert, and it was Chris Brown, Tory Lanez, and Ty Dolla Sign. And
I'm just glad you made it out alive.
me too. And it was funny because Chris Brown, during one of his, I guess, songs, goes like, wow, like I have a lot of songs. But what he did was he played like, I guess,
Played in quotes.
yeah, like 40 seconds to a minute and like 20 seconds of a song. Like that was it.
Wow.
And it's like, it was. And so, yeah, and Tory Lanez is a guy who shot Meg Thee Stallion literally like a couple months
Legend.
later, which was she's the co-singer of WAP. So,
And bongos.
and Bongo. Yeah.
Lest
So,
we
yeah,
forget.
That's so I've been through the thick of it. I survived. Never again though. It was not. I wasn't too impressed.
I mean, I see one hip hop group in concert. I saw Cypress Hill open for Linkin Park, and
Saw 2 hip hop groups.
well, I enjoyed both bands. I'm not gonna lie. but I enjoy that concert. And Wayne, are you in shock?
I don't know what to do.
Okay. But
Wayne's on suicide watch.
it was kind of cool at that time because it kind of reminded me, especially growing up as a teenager in Queens, and just having that I don't want to call it liquidation of styles, but it's like, you had a good mix of music fans there. The ones that were into rap, rock, pop, hard rock, electronic, whatever. And we were all just there to have a good time. And I was kind of like, kind of wish real life was like this. But no, it just seems like there seems to be more to get out of life when there is things like division and people causing controversy for the purpose of greed, and I can't stand that, and I don't want any part of it. I said, I'm sorry. I just want to say one last thing, AC. I'm sorry,
That's
DJ.
DJ.
So I meant DJ. Sorry, I'm speaking faster than I'm thinking. I said for a long time ago, I said with Severed Angel, the band that Wayne and I do, if we have a hit, great. If we don't have a hit, just as great. I don't want to compromise our artistic integrity for dollar signs, because as far as I'm concerned, what we put out is what we're thinking and how we're feeling at the moment, and we're capturing it. And if that's not good enough to be accepted by the mainstream, we don't care. We'll just continue to do what we want. And I think that's very liberating and not limiting.
Well, I think we actually need more uniformity in our music, because you're never going to bring in the rap audience. Like, you can make as many rap rock bands as what make it as accessible as possible. That rap audience has never and will never accept the rock side. Now, I find the people on the rock side often cuck to the rap side. Like, yeah, isn't that so cool what Anthrax did with Public Enemy? Oh, isn't that so cool what Aerosmith did? Run DMC. Run DMC was making fun of Aerosmith when they heard that. Like, he called it like some kind of like redneck jam or something. Reverend Run hated it. He hated it. He liked the success. He liked all the money that came with it. But it just, these people, they never come together. But I only see one side ever compromising, and then they just need to stop. I do not find Limp Bizkit to be tolerable. I think it needs to be its own thing. You cannot bring rap in. Like, there's one band, I think, like, this is The Line, and it's a band DJ likes, and it's a band that I really hate. DJ, what band is it?
I don't know.
Atheist.
Oh, well, I don't like that band.
Oh, I thought you liked that band. Oh, Baby liked that band. I was
I
confused.
don't like that
Yep.
band. Is that
Okay,
the jazz one?
Jazz metal. I think
Yeah,
jazz,
no.
because of how technical metal already is, you can kind of get away with it. But that's the line. They found a way to bring something more technical to something already technical. But I think that jazz is too chaotic for the way metal is already structured. Where if you listen to Limp Bizkit, it's metal without riffs and solos. So it kind of takes away what metal is. And that's kind of, to me, the disconnect of metal and new metal. It's stopped at a certain point. Something stops being something. You can change something only so much. Like, okay, here's a good example. You ever heard of the Ship of Theseus?
No.
Okay, so the Ship of Theseus, it's a ship that was replaced plank by plank due to rot. So just eventually, every single original piece of wood in the ship was not part of that. So at a certain point, is that ship not that ship anymore? So it's just kind of like a philosophical question. And then you could say the same thing about a person. So, we're all cells, and old cells die, and then we're replaced by new cells. So are we who we were 20 years ago? But because we kind of behave the same, I'd say, well, yeah. But once you start adding in little variables, like, okay, so instead of riffs, we're going to tune down. Instead of solos, we're going to rap. It's, to me, it's not metal anymore. It's just, it sounds heavy because it's tuned down, and it sounds like metal because there's distorted guitars. But I think there needs to be lines drawn, because during that period of like that 2005, 2010 period, every good band had a band open that was not of that genre. I never saw another thrash band open for Exodus. Like unless you're going to like maybe like a little like a bigger show, like Slayer and Megadeth did the anniversary tour for Rust in Peace and Seasons of the Abyss, but that was kind of like a special event, or like the big four. But I saw Megadeth and Gigantour. It was like Dream Theater. What's that band? Trivium.
Uh,
Okay,
2005 was
that one.
Dream Theater, Fear Factory, Dillinger,
Fear
Escape
Factory.
Plan,
Yes, Dillinger
Nevermore.
Explain. Yes. But none of those. Yeah. Nevermore was the other one. But where's Creator? Like where is Toxic Holocaust? Like where are those? Where are the bands that sound like that? Like why is Megadeth the only band on that bill that sounds like that? And it really put me off of going to shows, because like, okay, I either have to stand in like a really crappy spot, or I have to sit through 3 hours of bands that I can't stand. And I think it's the same idea, like this. It's like forced diversity, and I don't think it's ever worked. And that's why I just outright reject rap, because I find too often too many people like, well, this rap group is cool. It's like, yeah, but they don't think you're cool. Like some might say, well, like a camera's rolling because they get paid. Like, oh yeah, I'm down with that. But for the most part, no, they don't care. That like they've never supported us, so we shouldn't support them. Like it's a gimmick to have Cypress Hill and Linkin Park. And I'm glad that you like both of those bands and got to see them, but I think most people that like Cypress Hill, like that's their type of music, they're probably not happy to see Linkin Park. They probably wish that like E40, or what's that guy? I think it's E40, not EB40. Yeah, E40, or like Master P, or Sir Mix-a-Lot. They probably wish that was what was on the bill. And we need to stop compromising.
Cypress Hill though always did have fans that kind of went to both genres, though, I think. But
Yeah,
I can see a point though. If Lincoln Park fans are probably fans of Cypress Hill, but Cypress Hill fans
Yes.
probably aren't fans
Yes,
of Linkin Park.
that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that, but I guess like I'm also thinking, in my Wayback Machine, when I first heard Cypress Hill with Insane in the Brain, and at the time, what were the other rap groups that rock fans seemed to like, because they had that aggression, was House of Pain would Jump Around, and Onyx was Slam, and of course Onyx, you had the band Thank you. You had the band Biohazard in the video, and the video itself was directed by Paris Mayhew, founding member and original guitarist of the Cro-Mags. And you want to talk about punk rock? I mean, to me, Cro-Mags, them and Carnivore, although they're considered
Like a
both
thrash band.
right, or hardcore crossover thrash, but to me, it's like that stuff was real punk rock as opposed to like a Green Day or whatever. So I think that's what gave it credibility, was the fact that, well, if Paris from the Cro-Mags, is backing it up, then I would give it a shot. So, again, this was me thinking this at 13, because at the time, Cro-Mags meant something to me.
Isn't the guy from Biohazard, isn't Jerry Seinfeld literally his cousin?
They are like distant cousins, yes.
Yeah, and then
Evan and Jerry.
isn't he a pornographer now?
Formerly a pornographer.
Okay. Well,
he was married to Tara
better.
Patrick.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Lucky
wow.
bastard. Anyway,
I don't know if that's lucky. I don't know if being married to a porn star is good.
Tara is hot.
If you're
I'm
in
not
the
gonna
same
lie.
business, doesn't matter, I guess, right?
I don't know.
Hey,
I don't
fucking
know.
everyone.
Yeah, I don't know.
No,
It's like saying like, yeah, his wife used to be a prostitute. Oh, lucky bastard. It doesn't have the same ring to it.
no, AC though, I respect what you're saying about like, let the respective genres be the respective genres and why
Yeah.
there's, conflict in them meeting. Um, you know, uh, I do think that there are people like me that definitely has a genuine love for some of the artists in those respective genres, but I could also see what you're saying that, one group of fans may be a fan of the other genre, but it doesn't work the other way around.
Well,
Um,
especially because you have so many bands that are good that the people that are up top need to elevate. Like Pantera brought Morbid Angel on tour, and that was a big deal. Trey Asgathoth said, for the first time we got to play arenas, and like Metallica has not ever taken like Sodom on tour.
Mm.
Why have these big bands not taken like these mid Carters, and that's where it should be, instead of just taking two bands that are popular from different genres and trying to cross pollinate, because that's the most cynical, because it's really trying to do the like, look, we'll just get all of these fans. It doesn't matter that they're not going to like each other, but you could just, and that's how I know that the record industry,
there
it's
is no record
so
industry anymore.
right. Well, the music industry, it's so cynically ran, and I don't believe it is a music making business. I do believe it is propaganda, because the thing is, if let's say, yeah, Metallica and Sodom. So you have Sodom open for Metallica. You're going to increase Sodom's record sales. Like, why would you not have these bands that people go, oh my gosh, I never heard of this band. This band's really good. They sound like old Metallica. And then you're just taking one band and then you're just giving them new fans and then giving them more record sales. It would kind of even out where a lot of these bands are sagging behind. So there is no plan to actually take what you have and try to make it more money.
Even my favorite band, Megadeth, they're on tour with Mudvayne, and like, was it All That Remains or something like that? I'm like, that's I love Megadeth, but I can't
What do you
sit
do?
through
Yeah.
those other
I
two
couldn't believe they
bands.
opened for Five Finger Death Punch. Nothing against Five Finger Death Punch, but it's
Yeah,
like,
we've talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, dude, you're fucking Dave Mustaine of Megadeth.
You made Five Finger Death Punch.
Mm.
Exactly. But
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
The,
And I
the
want
mixing
to
of,
just
the mixing of genres don't bother me though. I
that
saw a
bothers me.
and that doesn't bother me because you know what it is, I like so many different bands and so many different genres of
Well,
music
but
too. So
that's
that
a
don't bother
niche
me that
thing.
way.
But continue.
But I went to an Overkill concert and I didn't know who was opening, but ended up being one of my favorite bands, Sonata Arctica, which is a power metal band from Europe,
Yeah.
and then a Canadian band called Into Eternity. And then you had those three bands don't even go with each other. But that was like my favorite show ever because I loved all three of those bands, So for me, it
I'd
worked.
be pissed. I'd be
I
pissed
know you would
because you go to Overkill, you want that high energy pit.
Yeah, right.
You're not really going to get that with, and yeah, and again, like nothing against Sonata Arctica, and that's why I brought up like REO Speedwagon and all those other things, because those bands have their place.
Mm.
It's and you the reason you can't really cross pollinate is because it just it sets the stage for leaving certain bands in the dust. And this is one thing I was thinking of. Did either of you watch WrestleMania 40?
Yeah.
I watched some of it. Yeah.
Okay, like I thought that The Rock should have come out after Roman Reigns, because Roman Reigns sucks. He sucks so much, but he was the champion, so the champion gets to come out last. Like that's the way that works.
Mhm.
And that's where like my brain is still like, but Dave is the champion. Like The Rock is more popular than Roman Reigns, but Roman Reigns comes out first. Well, Five Finger Death Punch is currently more popular than Megadeth, but Megadeth should be the headliner. for many reasons. Like, okay, Five Finger Death Punch has had, and again, nothing against Zoltan Bathory, friend of the show, nothing against Five Finger Death Punch on paper, but yeah, they have had more #1 hits. But to me, it's such a wild thing. I went to see Napalm Death in like 2007 or 8, and then they were the opening act. I can't remember who headlined, but it was some band that wasn't good.
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, I see this band, like drive all the way down to San Diego, and then listen to Napalm Death for 45 minutes, and then drive all the way back.
A lot
And
of
then just at a certain point, what
bands-
am I doing?
Yeah, a lot of bands have shitty openers because you don't want a band that's better than you opening
We've
your
had that
show.
thought.
Van Halen did that the entire time they were with Roth in the beginning.
Yeah.
Shitty opening acts.
Faith No More, the same thing. They have well, I don't know if they still do it. A comedian opens up the show, and it's a terrible comedian. It's just bad joke after bad joke after bad joke, and then when Faith No More comes on, you get to hear what you finally want to hear. So it kind of works that way, where you really don't want to have these bands that are better than yours, because then they're going to end up taking your spot. So
Yeah.
Well,
Well, then why did Megadeth open for Five Finger Death Punch?
Paycheck? That's the
because
only thing I can think of.
yeah, that too.
I was
Five
making
Finger
a
Death
I was
Punch-
making a comment that Megadeth's better than Five Finger Death Punch.
They are. But what album was Megadeth releasing at that time?
Was it Dystopia?
I think it was Dystopia.
Was it this?
I think it was fairly recently. So
Yeah, I think it was. I think
Yeah.
it was Dystopia, which it's probably my 4th favorite Megadeth record.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I mean,
But if it was like something like super, like I like to call it Super Colander, because it's a piece of shit album, I can
Super Colander.
understand that. It's
I mean,
Super
there's
Colander.
Oh,
there's three super
Fair enough.
colander. There's 3 concerts I remember where there was cross pollination. One was Cradle of Filth. The opening act was God Forbid, then Nile, then Vision of Disorder. Another one that I went to was In Flames, and the opening act was Walls of Jericho, then Skin Lab, then Earth Crisis. And the third one was Napalm Death headlining CBGBs, with the opening acts Diecast, Sun, Sunn, and Soylent Green as direct support. That show was the only one where it actually worked.
is Sun? Is that the one where Attila is the singer?
No, it was
Oh, okay.
no. The Sun is sort of like they were on Hydra Head Records, so they sort of like follow like that old school cave-in type sound. Very
Head.
like drony guitars and screaming and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
There was a tour.
No. I'm sorry. It wasn't Sun. It was ISIS. It was the band ISIS. That's who it was. My mistake.
The
Did they
terrorist.
cut? Did they cut anyone's head off and then
Yeah.
Wrong ISIS.
they,
Anyways,
they lit a journalist on fire in a cave?
no. DJ,
Oh,
what were you
that's too
saying?
bad.
So I saw a tour. And it was, I think it was a 2-month tour, but I got to see, I think, the last show at the Honda Center, and it was Amon Amarth headlining with Cannibal Corpse, Obituary, and then the opening band is a smaller band called Frozen Soul. And I got there at the beginning, and they were really good. Like each band, like I thought, like
So
Obituary.
that's a straight bill.
It was a straight bill, and it was a death metal show that was packed. Like there's a want for it, but you got to put bands that work together. Like all those are death metal bands. Like maybe Amon Amarth is the least death metal, and
Yeah.
they put on a crazy show.
I saw them open for Ghost last summer. I was like,
Oh,
okay, other
God,
than
like-
them being Swedish, what do these bands have in common?
Now, Ghost is not too far removed from like Marilyn Manson, even though I think they're lower energy. But
It's theatrical rock is really what it is. It's not even
well, that's
metal.
what. Yeah, that's what Marilyn Manson is. It's just kind of Marilyn Manson is kind of the modern day Alice Cooper in many regards. But yeah, that's kind of what Ghost is. But again, I wouldn't put the Marilyn Manson on that bill.
True, but I thought it was great for Ghost to use their platform to promote a band like Amon Amarth, to give them the exposure. I thought was a really good thing.
Isn't Amon Amarth? Well, how long ago was this? Because Amon Amarth's pretty big.
They're big now. Yeah.
This was
I
last
saw-
summer.
Yeah, Amon Amarth was still pretty big. I saw Amon Amarth open for Children of Bodom in 2006.
Rest in peace, Alexi.
Yeah, and I think bills need to be more like that. Like I think you can do like death and black metal or thrash and death metal. You can get away with like grindcore death metal, but for the most part, like you have like a 2/3 rule with these. Like I wouldn't put Morbid Angel with Judas Priest, even though I think you have mostly the same fans, but it would just feel very inappropriate. Like I don't think there's anyone that likes Morbid Angel that doesn't like Judas Priest, but there's probably plenty of people that like Judas Priest that don't like Morbid Angel. So that's where you get this awkward kind of crossover. But when you do like let's say Testament
Striper.
and well, I was going to go the other way, but yeah, that would be kind of awkward too. I was going to say like
They did that.
Testament and Vader. Like I think that's a perfectly fine bill, just like Vader and Marduk. Like that's a perfectly fine bill. And oh gosh, the blackest of the black, I want to say like 2010, Marduk was on there. That
Mhm.
used to be a very interesting show, but that's all over the place. Like that was too scatterbrained. And then I think it's like Wayne's school of thought. Like, well, I like the bands involved, but at the same time, there's some bands that I think suck. Like Lacuna Coil, Nile, Behemoth, and Danzig. It's too schizophrenic where you could just go just bands need to just here's what I like and here's what we play and this is what the tour needs to be instead of just like, oh, it's got metal in the name, just put them all there. It's all the same. That's what the kids are into. And I don't think the people at the top are these cynical like guys in a smoky room just smoking their cigarettes like the kids they like this metal, like well you got this metal band here, this metal band here, and it's like we got uh Acrecock and Mayhem. Yeah, I know they're both metal bands, that'll be fine. I don't think they're that cynical.
Do you think that's a U.S. problem though? Because like when you go to Europe and you see shows in Europe, there are more shows that are geared towards like thrash and death metal and all
Yes.
that stuff.
I
Yes.
think so.
And
Yes,
U.S.
I
you
do
come
think
in, it's all mixed up.
Yes, it is a US problem. It's because they don't care here.
Yeah.
Like here there's like an active war on metal. Like they are trying to bury
Just
metal.
banish
And
it, yeah.
I think that's part of it is you have these terrible bills and then it turned me off of concerts for the longest time because like oh my gosh like I there's one band I like and it's like five bands that suck. It's one thing if it's like stadium seating,
Mhm.
then I can just show up when the band I like goes on, but like okay, do I want to stand in the back where and not have a good time and go in the pit, or
Mhm.
do I want to sit through a bunch of bands that are terrible?
Yeah.
And that was the conundrum. And it's just like, you know what? Screw it. I've seen these bands before. I don't need to go again.
I just thought of one more other crossover concert I saw. Motorhead was the headliner. Opening act was Today Is a Day. Then you had Speed Dealer, formerly known as REO Speed Dealer, and co-headlining with Motorhead, Morbid Angel. Like that was like
That is really
a
schizophrenic.
wild lineup.
Well, during
That was
like
2002.
Iron Maiden's Brave New World tour was Motorhead, Dio, and Maiden headlining. See, that's
No. That was the Give Me Yet
the
Until I'm Dead
2000.
tour.
You're right. It was 2003. Yes.
Yeah,
It
Brave
was
New
Give Me
World
a Till I'm
was
Dead. You're right.
Halford and Queensryche.
Yes. You are correct. But yeah, that's a perfect bill. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Because there are very few people, like I'm sure there's some people out there like, oh, I hate Iron Maiden and Motorhead, I love Dio. There's probably some
Of course there are.
some losers out there. Some people are stupid, but for the most part this is like it's nice and simple. Motorhead, it's kind of weird that Motorhead didn't headline arenas because I just saw them at the House of Blues. Not just, but just one day. My friend's like, dude, Motorhead's playing at the House of Blues tonight. I'm like, oh, can we go? Like, oh, looks like it's not sold out. I'm like, oh, dang. So we just, drove down to Anaheim and we just saw Motorhead.
Mm.
And they played every song I wanted them to play. It was probably 2006. It was amazing. Yeah, and it's weird to think like Motorhead is a band that can just like, oh, we're gonna do a show tonight at the House of Blues at home. It's just it's weird to think that like you'll never see the Priest or Maiden do that. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't see Motorhead do that anymore either,
Mm.
but even
But-
at that time,
Again, that's a U.S. thing. You know, I'm
it is a
sure
U.S. thing.
everywhere else, Motorhead would be the headliner. So
Oh yeah.
the U.S. is just I don't know. We just
Fickle.
gotta,
Now-
yeah.
Well,
Pretty much.
I think that's also that's going. Europe is going to go that route because we've had several Scandinavian guests, and they have said like, yeah, they're like really trying to promote this terrible degenerate rap. Like it's getting a huge push and it's out of nowhere. So there is a coordinated effort there too. Like, all right, we need to get rid of this because metal has always been very popular outside of America. Like, go to
Yeah.
South America and then these bands are still huge. And then, some band plays, I don't know, some big soccer stadium in Argentina, and then now they're playing the crappy bar in Las Vegas.
Mm.
Like we saw Destruction, and like, where are you guys playing tomorrow? And then Mike was like, some shitty club in Vegas.
Yep, that's what happens to when you come here. Just suck the life out of everything.
But it seems like
Well-
they want to go on a U.S. tour, which is kind of the paradox. Because
Yeah.
Well-
we had Lord Armin on from Dark Funeral, and they just announced I think like a tour, and they're touring with Gwar. I thought that's like two very
That's a good bill.
that is a good bill. I mean,
Musically, I think that's tough because I would call Gwar. Gwar is like a kind of a thrash band.
Mm.
That's like they're kind of like Megadeth pace now,
Yeah.
where they have some thrash songs, but for the most part, it's like probably 150 BPM. But that to black metal is a little stretch.
Oh.
But the stage show of Gwar is awesome. In a
Oh, yeah.
perfect world, Gwar would be in Vegas.
Yep.
I recommend
Can't deny that.
everyone, if you haven't seen Gwar live, I highly recommend it. I've seen them several times, and it's awesome. I mean, most of the actual members of Gwar are dead, so R.I.P. Literally half that band. But the stage show is still the same.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
still it's
They
a
put on
good
a good show.
time.
They
It's a fun
succeeded
time.
where Kiss failed.
Yes, they're much better live show than Kiss. Although they could still, have the Guar condoms and Guar coffin.
Have
Not
you
too
going
late.
while you're coming? Sorry. Oh, I can't believe I said that. Anyway.
Oh God. Well, we've been on here for 2 hours, and it's been a lot of fun.
It's been a great
It
conversation.
has been. I didn't know what to expect from you guys, but you guys brought your A game, so it was a lot of fun
No-
talking to you guys.
Oh, I brought my C game. I'm so tired.
No, but I'm grateful that both of you gentlemen came on because, look, Wayne and I, we're friends, we're music fans. We never try to capture people in gotcha moments.
Mm-mm.
Like if you want gotcha moments, go watch a shitty friggin' CNN or something.
Go watch Keemstar.
That too. Like we try to give all of our guests like the time of day and the attention that no one else would give them, which is why it's like, we're glad that you guys got to both come on and say what you had to say. And I feel like the only way you could really draw a conversation is if you just shut up and listen. So thank you both for coming on.
It's our pleasure. Yeah, thank you for having us, and best of luck with everything you're doing. We can support you in any way we can. We're happy to be your friends.
Well, let's not
Good
go
night.
too far.
Wayne keeps it
Well,
professional.
Well, DJ's happy to be here.
Yes, I need friends. Will you be my friend?
You guys, yes, you are definitely our friends. You're in our little circle now.
Heck yeah.
Where can people go and find the Metal Podcast so they can hear more of you guys?
Well, we have our YouTube channel just at the Metal Podcast, and SoundCloud, be SoundCloud.com. Metal Podcast.
A lot of rappers are on SoundCloud, by the way.
Yeah.
They are.
SoundCloud
They
rappers.
are. Yes. Only the highest quality. We're on
Yes.
Spotify, the Metal Podcast. And we're on iTunes, the Metal Podcast.
Well, we did produce an album that's on our SoundCloud as well, and our
We did
YouTube.
produce an album.
Oh, you
It's
did?
on our
We did,
SoundCloud.
yeah.
What is it? What is it
It's
called?
It's a punk album. It's called Retro Riot, Punk Rock Time Machine. We just got together with some people we knew, and we didn't want to put the time in to record music, and we wrote some songs, and we just asked some people we knew, like, hey, can you turn these low quality demos into high quality songs? And they did that. And that's also on our SoundCloud, Retro Riot, Punk Rock Time Machine. That there's also a video of it. Not really a video, but there's a thumbnail, but it's on YouTube, on our YouTube channel.
Very cool. And you got a band too, right, AC?
I do. I have an album. It's I'll just we'll find out if I can do it. Just drop it in the chat there. Ancestors Call, Endure, death metal. If you like the Vaders and the Morbid Angels, I think you'll have a good time. It's very 80s. And you know what? It's very underproduced, but every album that comes out now sounds so perfect that it has no identity. At least my underproduced album has a distinct sound to it. It doesn't punch as hard as most modern stuff, but it sounds very, very eaten back to life. Very Altars of Madness. I'm actually very proud of it. I'm working on another one, but in the meantime, Endure by Ancestors Call. It's $5, or you can listen to it all without buying it. Either way, I don't care. But
very cool.
Money is preferred, but I won't be bent out of shape if you don't want to give me it.
We could all use some money. DJ, you got anything else besides doing the podcast?
No, I don't do anything else.
No, you just sit there doing podcasts.
Sit there and that's nothing.
He's on 7 other podcasts. He's on part of the problem.
Yeah,
He's on the H3 podcast. He's on the Lolcow Live. He's all over the internet.
Yeah, all over. Yep. I just doom scroll all
Come Town. He's Lemon Party.
Yep, you know where to find me.
Perfect Guy Life. Yeah, he's on all of them.
Lou, what were you getting there? I saw you
just
something.
Showing the 2 beautiful Severed Angel CDs
that
are available over at severedangel.com. What's that?
I say we'd like money too, so buy that.
Yes, every copy you buy from our website goes directly to us to keep us going, to pay our bills for the band, such as social media, such as merchandise, such as Wayne's cabal of harem girls that he has backstage right now in his basement. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Paying the fees for DJ and I to come on.
We'll discuss that later. But anyway, severedangel.com.
We'll edit that out.
Listen, let me ask you people something. Where else are you going to find beautiful artwork from a band who releases their music independently? Look at this. Come on. Thank you, Ale, over in Poland, for doing this. Check out these photographs. Come on. Full band shots. And we don't even have a label. We do this all ourselves.
Kind of cool.
Okay? Support independent music.
Yeah, get ready to go skyward.
Right.
I like him. He's good.
Yeah, he's good.
That's a pitchman. That's a Flavor Flav you want to keep for life.
You're hired.
Yeah, boy.
I just do less crack.
That's
Well, guys, thank you very much for coming on the show. And everybody, please go find the Metal Podcast. Hit that subscribe button for them. And
I just did.
Their subscribers, good. And hit our subscribe button too. It's down there somewhere below this little video here, Rat Salad Review. And you can also join me on Rat Salad Review Radio on freeworld.fm. I'm actually playing music right now while we're doing this show, but it's a pre-recorded show, so I could do both at the same time. But that's
Wayne doesn't want to take away time from this show for you people. So yes,
that's right. So at 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. every Wednesday night, right after this show, I go on freeworld.fm. But Thank you for everybody watching. Ludwig van Beethoven. Great episode, guys. Really enjoyed the guests. Very cool. Thank you for watching.
Yeah,
everybody.
thank you. This is like the most consistent that we've had people stay on to watch this show on a live setting. So thank you, everybody.
Yep. Thank you.
Oh,
Very much for
yeah.
watching.
The queen rises to the top.
That's right. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. We will see you guys next week. All right. Until then, bye bye.
Cheers.